They say illness makes everyone equal, but if you've ever been sick and poor, you know that's a lie. When you're poor, a cough can turn into a crisis. A fever can ruin a life. When you're rich, even cancer can be treated like a seasonal flu. I remember a woman I met years ago in a waiting room. Her name was Anna. She was holding a plastic folder stuffed with hospital papers, test results, and handwritten prescriptions she couldn't afford to fill. She told me, almost apologetically, that she'd been feeling unwell for months. But she kept working, ignoring the pain, because missing a day meant losing a wage. By the time she finally came to see a doctor, her illness had a name that could no longer be whispered away. The treatment existed, but it lived in a different country, behind the walls of private clinics, in the language of invoices with too many zeros. Contrast that with Michael, same illness, different life. His diagnosis came on a Tuesday afternoon. By Wednesday, he had a team of specialists flying in from different cities. By Friday, he was in a room with white walls, soft sheets, and a machine humming like it had been built just for him. The words prognosis and outlook were followed by phrases like manageable and full recovery expected. We're told that health is the one thing money can't buy, but that's not true. Money can't stop a virus from entering your body, but it can decide how quickly it's found, how gently it's treated, how closely it's monitored. It can decide whether you live in fear of a bill or in trust of a system designed to protect you. There's a cruel mathematics to this. For the poor, illness multiplies medical costs, eat into savings. Absence from work means lost income. Stress weakens the body further. For the rich, illness divides delegated responsibilities, hired care, access to treatments that buy not just time but comfort. It's the same disease, but it lives two very different lives depending on the body it inhabits. I think about my grandfather who used to say, "The rich recover, the poor endure." At the time, I thought he meant endurance as a kind of strength, but I see now he was talking about a quiet kind of suffering, the kind that stretches on, day after day, because there is no alternative. Sometimes the difference is not even in the medicine itself, but in the timing. A rich person can get a screening just to be sure. A poor person waits until the pain can no longer be ignored, and by then the conversation is not about prevention, but survival. I once read a line by Anatole France: "The law, in its majestic equality, forbids the rich as well as the poor to sleep under bridges, to beg in the streets, and to steal bread." The same could be said for healthcare. The hospital doors are open to all, but the journey to those doors and what awaits behind them is not the same for everyone. There's another irony. When you're rich, being sick can even become manageable, almost dignified, a time to slow down, to be cared for, to receive flowers and visits and gentle voices. When you're poor, sickness strips you bare. It's not just the body that aches, it's the mind, counting every cost, wondering if recovery will bankrupt the family, or if death might be cheaper. I've seen the look in someone's eyes when the doctor says the word treatable, but the patient hears unreachable. It's the same illness, the same human vulnerability. But one person walks away with a treatment plan, the other walks away with an impossible choice. We live in a world that often pretends the playing field is level, that life and death are decided by chance, not by wealth. But the truth is quieter and harder to accept. The poor die of treatable diseases, the rich live with incurable ones. Sometimes I wonder if money didn't decide the quality of care, how many stories would end differently if the speed of diagnosis, the availability of treatment, and the burden of cost were the same for all. How many families would still be together? I don't have an answer, but I do know this: illness is not just a biological event, it's a social one. It reveals the scaffolding of our world, who is held up and who is left to fall. Anna passed away. Michael still sends postcards from his travels. Both were human, both were sick. Only one had the luxury of turning his illness into a chapter, instead of an ending. Maybe, in some distant future, we'll look back on this time and see it as a kind of barbarism, that we once allowed a person's wealth to dictate the value of their life. Or maybe, nothing will change, and the same quiet tragedies will repeat themselves in different waiting rooms, with different names. The truth is, sickness is the great equalizer only in theory. In practice, it's the great divider. And so, leave you with this question: when your time comes to be sick, because it will you be treated as a patient or as a problem?